What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm joined by Kyle, or as most people know him, Forever Rad, which is how I knew him before we ran into one another here in Sturgis. Wanted to pick his brain on his process and also wanted to give him a little bit of a spotlight because he's turning out some of the best bikes that I've ever seen. All right, Kyle, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time doing this, man. Like I said, you're a huge inspiration. I have pictures of your bikes on my phone as inspiration for my next build. So thank you for that. Tell us what we're here with today.
This is our version of Indian Challenger race replica. We wanted to keep this bike a little bit more street friendly, something you could still take a road trip on, but maybe you would ride it to the track and race it and ride it back home. Definitely wanted to focus on some of the finer details and the detail stuff we're known for, but also still have something that is fully functional and kind of like a purpose-built motorcycle rather than just throwing a bunch of parts at it and hoping that it works. And we definitely kind of have it down to a science at this point of what we feel works best in form, function, reliability, products that are going to hold up, get you to where you're trying to go while looking as good as possible, and of course being as happy as you could be with the overall performance of something. You know, I always tell people I'm a skateboarder first, so I grew up on a skateboard and I take a lot of pride in that, but I love riding motorcycles and it hurts a lot more to fall on a skateboard these days. So I want to just try to be having fun and remaining young. I mean, I think everyone has that goal in life. So I really try to focus on, let's make these bikes look aggressive and tough, but are also really gnarly at the same time. Like taking a gas tank that makes no sense to most people and just doing it, and committing. You know, it's a tough thing. It's a scary thing. It's a financial commitment, but it's staying true to who I am. And I really take a lot of pride in that. Because I really feel like our builds stand out in a sense of, hey, this dude has some talent, but he's also staying true to himself and he's not conforming to what everyone else is doing or whatever's popular.
Kyle, do you want to just hit some of the touch points on what's going on with this bike, and then we'll go check out the other one?
Yeah, sure, man. It's a lot, and it's going to be a lot to recap, but in the Cliff Notes version, Indian came out with a race replica bike, and it's available to purchase. It's extremely expensive, rightfully so. It's an amazing machine, but everybody wants it. Nobody wants to pay for it because it's so expensive and it's made for a track. I want one, but what the heck am I going to do with it? I can't afford to fix it when I wreck it on a track, right? So I took a street bike and I said, let's throw a lot of the same components that they use into this build. And so we were able to team up with S&S on certain elements with a chain tensioner, a race primary, an Öhlins rear shock. We've formulated a front suspension for these bikes with Big Bear where we have full adjustability on these front ends. We're making them tall. We're setting them for the right spring rate, for the right size rider with compression and rebound and preload. So you get a full-blown racing style suspension for a street bike. From there, we lightened up the whole body with carbon fiber, minus the gas tank, of course. Numerous vendors to do that, TNA and Hoffman Designs and OEM Indian parts. We like to support Indian. They show us a lot of support. So we do what we can by pushing anything cool that they do. They make carbon fiber parts. We're going to use those. So we lightened up the body, cams, pipe, tune, a really aggressive seat that moves me forward, T-bars, Barnstorm dash kit. All of these things provide the perfect ergonomics to get you in an attack position with mid controls. It pushes you forward, it's got you ready for the corners, and as long as you can handle what the bike is ready to do, you can hit any corner you want at any speed on this bike. At the same time, it's still comfy. You could take a road trip on it. You don't have to put race fuel in it. You just got to run premium. Little things like taking a passenger peg off. A race bike shouldn't have that. But if I want to throw my wife on the back seat, we can still put a tour pack on this bike. We can put pegs back on it. So it's all form and function. And I really think we did a great job on it. And I look forward to putting more miles on this bike. We just finished it for Sturgis. We did ride this bike here last year. Didn't quite look like this, but you know, it was a 5,000 mile trip up here on this bike, and here we are a year later on a whole new version of it. And we intend to, you know, probably ride it here next year. And
Yeah, no,
that's what it's all about.
The perfect blend of form, function, rideability. You don't need the full-on race bike. It would be dope. I want one too.
Right.
But like you said, I'm not going to do anything with it. This checks all the boxes. All your go fast stuff, your reliability stuff. Kyle, let's go check out that other bike.
Sounds great. And this bike has my wheels on it. So these wheels actually have my logo. There's 10 logos there. So technically there's 40 Forever Rad logos on the wheel, but it's super underspoken. Right? Another cool thing is all the carbon. I modified the fairing. Like this is really wild looking. So I went ahead and opened up the fairing so you can see through it. But it's a cool feature. I knew I was doing green with the Slasher logo. So the tubes are kind of a green hue rather than gold. Sprocket cover, we put a hole in that thing, centered it up on the sprocket. And then another cool thing is I chopped the fairing on this bike so it doesn't come down. It actually comes up at an aggressive cut right here. That angle is the same as the fender angle right there. And then I re-radius the side of the fender so that it matches the profile of the tire perfectly. So when you look at a stock one, it hugs way tighter and it's like, looks like a wheel skirt on like a Cadillac or something. So it makes it look even taller than it even is because you've reshaped everything. And then to keep it legal, like light wise, we just did a simple bolt-on bracket where they're just barely hanging out. But then one thing that I really love is the same thing right here that no one notices. But when you come up from the front, they're completely exposed from the front. And they're so bright that they're freaking blinding. So another cool highlight is they always have a big cover right here. It has a coil behind it. So we made spark plug wires, relocated the coil and the horn, and just made some head bolt fasteners just to gives us some style points, but it also has a little bit of form as well, or function as well. But that was a big project. Hiding a coil and a horn on this bike was not easy to do.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have a little bit more of a gnarly chopper vibe on this bike. So another key point was opening up the neck a little bit. Right here, you can see through the bike.
Yeah.
There's no other Chief that looks like that. And it gives it that stripped down, raw chopper kind of vibe. Even though I wasn't going for chopper, I wanted it more gnarly. And that's where like the stainless stuff and like the kind of chopper vibes kind of come in. And then of course, same with all the raw stuff. Like this is literally a stock fork. I just stripped all the anodizing off and brushed it, you know?
Just, it gives it that performance look when you do that. You know what I mean? Like
This bike should scream gnarly when you look at it.
Yeah.
And it does. It's tall. It's aggressive. It looks fast sitting still. But we still hit all the details with like all the powder coating. Every part's been powder coated. Every bolt has been replaced. We did our caliper bracket on the back. So we have matching radials on the rear. You see all of this. It's exposed.
Yep.
And the caliper doesn't match from the factory. So you're like, that's got to go. So, and then the performance of that is insane. Like you can slide this thing out now and control like if you really want to. And we also did like the dash. This usually wraps way down here, like in. I rounded it out because this area of a chopper is super important.
Mm-hmm.
So everything kind of comes together here. We took a saddleman seat, moved it forward, aggressive position, did a kind of a racer, like fast pack look on it.
Yeah.
Look fast, sitting still kind of vibe.
Yep.
So, and then like a straight up chopper license plate model.
Yeah.
There's nothing performance about that.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This, if you put some hard struts on it, it'd be kind of like a hardtail.
Right.
And it could almost pull that off.
So as far as your process, let's say we're staring at a bone stock bike. Where do you start? Like, are you doing sketches? Are you doing stuff on the computer? Or is it just all in your head and you start doing it?
You'd probably be surprised to know that I don't really do any rendering stuff at all. I have certain builders I look up to for certain elements of I like their style, I like their paint choices, I like their details, but I'll never copy anybody, ever, because I want to do something original and push my own limits. Whether I have done it or not, I'm going to force myself to be able to make it happen. So I would say each project kind of starts in a sense of how can we do something different than last time, but still have our similar feel. And a lot of the times, I'll be honest, I'm just winging it. I have no plan going into it. I just know I want to use this part, or I really think this graphic would be cool. And there's no better way than to, you know, see what you're capable of than just tearing it down to nothing and just go for it. You just have to trust that you're gonna come up with something cool, something unique, something that looks nice. And a lot of that's just experience. You know, you have to fail. You have to fall on your face. And I've been doing this stuff a long time, so, you know, I know that I'm not gonna fail, but I still like to push myself and say, you know what I've never done? I've never done just a white tank on a motorcycle. It makes no sense, but we're gonna see if we can pull this off, right? What's the worst that happens? We gotta repaint a gas tank. And I think the results kind of speak for themselves. It's the centerpiece of a bike. It's got a little bit of a nod to some skateboarding flair, and it looks gnarly, it looks fast, and mission accomplished. So concerning the builds, yeah, I mean, anybody's capable of it. You just have to commit, and you have to just put it in and stick with your plan. Form a plan, stick with it, never quit, and you're gonna come up with something. If it wasn't good enough, try it again.